Professor Clark, thanks for being here. My first question is, do you believe that your findings are applicable to other liberal democracies around the world, or that they are exclusive to the United States and its particular political system?
Actually, I think they can generalize, although there's some limitations. Since the creation of the European Central Bank, the member countries of the EU are really in quite a different position than the United States is. So I would be reluctant to apply it in a post-ECB Europe, but prior to that in Europe and currently in, say, the United Kingdom, I think these results should hold up. As a matter of fact, I'm engaged in a project to extend the paper to the United Kingdom to examine exactly this subject.
You mentioned that liquid asset holders can also have a significant role in Fed policy. What influences do you consider to be more important, those of the presidential election cycle or those of Wall Street?
Ooh, well, that's a very good question. I do believe that Wall Street is extremely powerful in determining outcomes in the United States. In fact, you can get an insight into that by comparing the role of the federal government in the bailout, so-called bailout of Wall Street, with the bailout of the big three automakers. The Fed was, and the government as well, was proactive in trying to solve the problems of the banks, whereas they were quite insensitive to the plight of the big three automakers, and I think that's precisely because Wall Street is composed largely of liquid asset holders, and they can credibly threaten to leave when they don't get the policies they like. How that affects the electoral calendar, I think, is hard to tease out because, in effect, the interests of the central bank and the interests of Wall Street are so similar. It's hard to get a gauge of their independent effect.
Professor, by any account, this is a very politically oriented paper. The results of your paper suggest that Democrats are in a disadvantaged position, that they are perhaps given a raw deal by the Fed. How do you feel about this political aspect of this political component of the paper? Are you happy with this conclusion?
No, I wouldn't say I'm necessarily happy with it. I'm not a registered Democrat or a registered Republican. So I think I'm in a position to look at the data and see what it says without too much of a partisan bias. There are some. It's interesting that the Democrats are disadvantaged in this way. I think one way you can think about it is independent central bank independence in the United States effectively guarantees or gives an institutional mechanism for liquid asset holders to veto policies that they don't like. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know. But it has led to, by and large, fairly successful policy in the United States in the last 50 years.
Professor Clark, thanks very much.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you, Thomas.